For this next part of the animatic tutorial, I'm going to show you some additional things you can do, some additional assembly processes that'll give your animatic some more dynamic and animation movement, and also add to the storytelling aspect of your animatic and your short film. So we've already assembled some storyboard panels here. We've done some straight cuts. We brought them in. We've converted them to symbols, which will allow us to do certain things that we can't do with the graphics. Let's start with this first. Let's start with this first panel here, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so we can get in a little closer. And if you notice that I've kept the image outside of the stage area, so there's a little bit of extra space here. So I'm going to start at frame 1, and I am going to position it here, and then I'm going to go to frame 40 here, and I'm going to make a frame, I'm going to make a keyframe there, and I'm going to move it at that keyframe, and I'm going to move it this way to this end here, basically creating a pan. So it's going to go from here to here, and I want to adjust that a little bit. There's a little bit of drift there. And then I'm also going to copy this frame, and I'm going to paste it at the last frame here. Right click, paste frame. So these two are the same. So now if I go to the first frame here, I'm going to right click over this, and I'm going to go create classic tween, and that'll give you this little blue thing in the timeline here. And if you play it through, you will see that it gives a little bit of a pan, a little bit of a camera movement here. And you can do that with any of your symbols that you bring into your timeline here. And this is a nice way to do cameras, a nice way to sort of fake some animation in your animatic. Now that we've done that, there's a couple of things we can do to fine adjust that. If we go to the properties here and we look at the first keyframe here, and I'm going to click on that keyframe, it'll give us some properties that will manipulate that keyframe. And one of them is a classic ease. And this gives you some ease in and some ease out. And I want to ease out of this move. So I'm going to click on this number here. It says 0. And I'm going to drag it to negative 100. That will ease it in. Okay, so now if I were to play this, it's going to start slow and it'll go fast. Let's just say that's not what I want. I'm going to go back to this keyframe here, and I'm just going to drag it over to the right, and it's going to ease out. A little bit like that. Now you can mix your ease ins and your ease out, but that requires you putting some additional keyframes in there, and you can experiment around with that a little bit as you want. I have a little bit of, after this camera move ends, I have a little bit of action here that I can play with. Now what I want to do is I want to put some action on top of this frame here. And to do that, I'm going to need to have another layer in my timeline. I go down here in my new layer icon here, and I'm going to put a new layer, and you can put the layer any way you want, but the way that these layers are stacked, this layer is on top of this image here. And you can basically stack as many layers as you want and put images on top of each other and play around with them that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my library, and I want to put the little boy walking along. After this camera move ends, I'm going to put in that that image of the boy. See if we can find him. Boy walk. Remember when in Photoshop where we cut him out and made a transparency image? So I'm going to put a keyframe on that new layer, F6. That'll be, there's nothing there, so there'll be an empty keyframe, and I'm going to drag that image on top of that. Again, it's going to have to be sized, and I want to F8, convert it to a symbol, like so. And Now it's a symbol, and now I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so I can see everything, and I'm going to zoom back in, and I'm going to put him about here, start him about here. Sorry. And he's going to start, and he's going to walk this distance. Now, there's not enough time. Say there's a real short time, and I want to extend that. You can definitely extend out the time of your timeline by grabbing all of these keyframes here. You select them by shift selecting all of this part of your timeline, and you can drag that out and give yourself more time if you need. So, and you can do that by, if there's more time or less time you have on each panel, you can definitely edit your timing of your animatic that way. So I just wanted to have more time for the little boy to walk across here, so I just selected these and dragged them out, and then I want to also make sure that the timelines match up. So I start here, and I'm going to bring him a little farther back, and I'm going to walk him. Going to go to about frame 100, press F6, that'll keyframe him there, and I'm going to walk him out to here. Go to the first frame, create classic tween, and let's play. And now he walks across the little backyard area here, and you're basically doing some real cheap fake animation. Now he will stay on that layer until I tell him to go away. So to make him disappear, because we don't want him on this next image here, is that you go to that image, go to that frame on that layer, press F7, and that will eliminate him from now on. And you can keep adding layers as much as you want here. Another little trick that's really kind of cool to do is to do like some dissolves between two images here. And to do that, again, you need to make another layer. You could probably do it on the same layer. Sometimes you have to make an additional layer. Just for what we're doing here, I'm going to make another layer here, and I'm going to copy this frame, and I'm going to put it on top here on this new layer, F6, paste frame, and so this is on top here, and I'm going to take it all the way to here, make a keyframe there, and then make a empty keyframe there. So this is on top of this layer here, this image. And what I'm going to want to do is go to this frame here. So I'm going to press F6, and I'm going to go to the first keyframe there and create classic tween. And we have nothing going on here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that image in my stage here, go to properties, and if you see in the properties, if I clicked on the symbol, you have this thing called color effect, and there's some things that you can do. You can change the brightness, the tint, the color on it, but there's this thing called alpha, which lets you make it visible or invisible. Okay, so alpha 0 is invisible, and with a tween on there, what it's going to do is basically do a dissolve between those two images there. So now you can blend your images more smoothly, not just a cut, by doing like an alpha dissolve with a tween. And then I'm going to do it at the end here, so I'm going to have it fade out again. So I put a keyframe there, put a create motion tween, create classic tween, go to the last frame, keyframe there, click on the image, color effect alpha, and it's gonna stay at the last value that I put it, so it's going to I'm going to make it alpha out, so make it invisible. And now if we look here, let's just play this. And it does a little dissolve out like that. Once you've got everything put together and you want to make a movie of this, you've adjusted things and you've worked on it, made it perfect, you go to File, Export, and you can export a few things here. I'm going to export a video. Export a movie will make a SWF file, which is good for like it's a flash file, which is good for internet. But what we want to do is we want to export a video. And I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to go, it's going to default to MOV, which is a QuickTime. And you're going to tell it where to go. This is going to go to the desktop, and you're going to, it's going to name it what the name of the animate file is, and then you can browse to that. You can actually change it here if you go browse, and it's going to go, let's just put it on our desktop just for actually, you know, let's keep it into the trophy storyboard. No, let's make it into our, let's go to our animatic demo. So it's going to go into that demo file. I think that's probably a better thing to do. I like to put things on the desktop sometimes, but just keeping it in one folder is probably a good idea. So it's going to go into that project folder. It's going to make it a QuickTime movie. Go save and go export. And it's going to make a movie to the length of your timeline. So whatever the length of your timeline is what the length of the movie is going to be. If you have a layer that's going out farther, it's going to make it to the length of that timeline. So let's go and take a look here, and it's made the animatic demo, and we're going to go open with QuickTime, and it'll play our little video. Here it goes. And as you can see, it happens pretty quickly, so you can look at this and make changes and just save over that file. So that's basically how you can make a very nice working animatic using Adobe Animate. I'm going to have one more tutorial after this, which is going to show you how to put sound on your animatic.